I'm Neil Howman from Rapid TV News. If you were to be able to predict where digital signage would be in 5 years' time, what do you think would be the main aspect of that, and possibly also what would be maybe one of the red herrings around at the moment that people are talking about that may not lead to anything?
Wow. Okay. So where would 5 years is a long time in anybody's business, but where would digital signage and digital out-of-home be in 5 years?
Well, I think ultimately, as I may have alluded to earlier, I think a brand should have the capability to run a campaign across Europe and broader, maybe even global, if you wanted, to be able to run a campaign to be very specific, to reach a particular demographic, and be able to manage that, if they needed to, at a very, very short notice. Ultimately, if you could reach that demographic globally with a very short, simple campaign with short notice, that would be incredible. Now, you can do that potentially through other media, through the internet. Could you do that through a digital out-of-home system? I think the red herring is maybe the one that came up earlier, 3D.
3D, yeah. Possibly. Yeah. I'll just jump in quickly before I ask Bob. I think one of the things we're going to see is, I think we all know that if digital display technology was as cheap as paper, I think that every billboard or poster would disappear. Whether we get to that price point where things are as cheap as that, I don't know. Bob and his business would know more than I about that. But some of the technologies we have with things like OLED would mean that the price is very comparable. When you look at some of the work that some of the big outdoor people are doing in terms of the amount of money they can make on an animated poster as opposed to a static poster, you can make 4, 5, 6 times more revenue than that cost. The graph cost equation gets much sooner and breaks down. So I think you end up a lot more digital. I think the danger is, as Bob's alluded to this morning a few times, like if you look at China, for example, where there's so much digital, I think there's no breakout of that. I think everything is a boring rectangle shape, not a shape, it's just a boring rectangle or a square portrait landscape. And you need some cut through on that. So I think that's a big danger. But I would say 5 years' time, I would expect to see a lot more things digital. I think if you look at some of the stuff that some of the display companies are doing, like Christie, a lot more display surfaces or surfaces will be digital, whether it be a bar, whether it be a wall. We'll lose the concept of video walls, we just have the concept of a wall being a display. That will happen. The price, as you said, with Moore's law, it's going to come down, so I think that will be a lot there. The challenges are how to make it relevant and to get that cut through. If everything is digital, everything moves, everything is like you see in China, you lose a lot of impact, and I think that the big media agencies would not necessarily like that. But from you look after all the R&D for Christie, and you look many years ahead. I don't know if you look 5 years ahead, but you look a few years ahead, don't you?
I do. I try. If we can get it wrong, there could be red herrings along the way. I agree with you. It's 3D as being a red herring, but it could also be a wild card. We just don't know. There could be breakthroughs. I'm not aware of them, but I've been in this in the electronics business long enough to know that you can't predict too far out. I think you're right. I'm not sure you're right. That's the question. What I see is pixels everywhere. As Moore's law kicks in, I think that pixels will be everywhere through technologies that we offer, that other companies offer. I think we haven't talked about digital paper today, but I think it's an important aspect as well. And we're going to see surfaces that we don't expect to see pixels today, that would just look unusual to us, are going to be ubiquitous in 5 years. And I think the challenge is how to deal with massive amounts of pixels. Pervasive pixels everywhere is going to be a really huge challenge for the business.
It's always difficult looking so far ahead. You just need to, if you look back a couple of years, if you look even 2 years ago, you wouldn't expect people to go up to a screen and touch it. And now we expect people to do that, and people do all the time, and they get their dirty paw prints all over the screen. And we've got Apple to thank for that because of the touch screen technology they have in their iPhone and the iPad. But 2 years ago, people wouldn't go to a screen and touch it. Now I think the natural thing is to touch or to gesture to a screen. So using that as an example just shows you how difficult it is to predict what that next thing might be. I think one of the key things, as we talked earlier, answering one of the earlier questions about the consumer-led technology, I think we can look to a lot of consumer technologies to see where our industry is going. I mean, these have mass market appeal, they sell in the millions, whereas, you know, all best intentions in our industry, we probably sell in the hundreds of thousands of units. So the consumer stuff is pretty important, I think. I mean, mood media, you've been doing this for dozens of years with the music, so you must have some inkling of where it's going in the future as well.
Without wanting to sort of repeat what you've both said, I agree. I think there will be much more digital signage. I think the costs will come down. I think marketing budgets will shift to free up resource to spend more on digital signage, whatever form that is going to take in 5 years' time. I think education has come out as key here. We've got a responsibility to educate the marketplace so they know what they can do. Yeah, I think the 3D thing, I agree with you both again, you know, possibly a red herring. I don't see where that is going to go. Not to say it won't go anywhere, but I don't know at the moment. So, yeah.
Good.
I think, so we all agree about 3D. I think one thing that we'll see are displays that are three-dimensional, that have not just a flat plane. I mean, this is becoming boring to me too. I think we'll see displays on floors, on ceilings, not just walls, and I think we'll see displays that have shapes, curves, corners, edges. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be eye-catching.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it before about merchandising as well. I mean, if you look at the trends in retail and merchandising, people put an LCD screen in the window. It got bigger and bigger, and then they did a projection, and then it got bigger and bigger, and then they wrapped it with vinyl. But it was always 2 dimensions. It was just that surface glass with a screen attached. And I think we're seeing in some instances now, talking again about retail theatre, people reclaiming that merchandising space at the front of the window, so it's more than just 2 dimensions. So it is
theatrical, correct?
Yes, I mean, there's a mixture of mannequins and screens and vinyl and all sorts of bits and pieces, as a true shop fitter, a window dresser should do. I think we're seeing those people take over, use the medium more, not just leaving it to the AV people who hang and bang a screen and a window. And of course, you guys have been doing lots of things like that with spraying smell and scent on people as they walk through the door and all the other bits and pieces. So very difficult to predict 5 years, but good fun to try and do.
From that is that it's going to be an integral part of the environment, you know, rather than when this became just something stuck on as an extra. I think now there's enough knowledge where the architects are thinking about that potentially as part of new buildings or refurbishment. So, in whatever shape or form, you know, it will be an integral part of that, the environment, and it should be, from a campaign point of view, an integral part of any brand's campaign.
And as you say, budget's moving, which is good, and being integral means that the industry should be, I was going to say in good shape, but the industry should be in good shape going forward. So thanks very much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you again.